All right, so after a night off last night from doing this, back into reading this book, Volume 2. So the playlist is there. It's a long playlist that goes through Volume 1 and Volume 2. We started this when we started the lockdown, and it's still going on. So this we could get through a lot of books before anything gets back to any kind of semblance of normal. I'm being optimistic, though, that things still be some form of normal soon.
Yes.
Some form. Not normal,
It'll be a gradual
but some
thing.
form. All right. We're starting with Chapter 5 right now. The elevator's broken. Jim Webster's been waiting for the doors to open, but the elevator's been slowly going through the floor numbers Jim didn't even know they had. He's baffled by this turn of events. He knows how tight security is in this section of the Special Operations Building, and he does not have security clearance to get this far into their section. The realization he could very well be headed for a completely different area that Blair Drake has taken as subjects brought here today is upsetting. He doesn't want to be on a wild goose chase and miss his chance to find out what's going on here and why everyone seems so jumpy right now. As the elevator lurches along, Jimmy thinks back on his conversation with Dave. David referred to the people brought here as subjects and didn't name them. Dave always gave names to everyone. Now, he often got those names wrong, but everyone had a name, and there were a few reasons to hide names from Jim unless the names would be familiar to him. This could be paranoia talking, but it had him even more nervous than he would have been going somewhere like this. More nervous than he would be going somewhere like this than he otherwise would have been. Boy, I can really phrase that way, way better. I've started looking at Chromebooks, and I'm starting to think about getting myself a little Chromebook with the agreement that if I'm going to buy a Chromebook, that means I'm writing books and taking 2-hour periods during the day where, okay, this is my writing time, and stick to it. Okay, writing time, and go through it, and reboot this whole thing, and hopefully not be that wordy. But after it's done, actually get it professionally published. Actually submit it for professional publishing. This is, of course, self-published. All right. There were rumors of people returning from Arcology 1237 being placed in custody after the human bomb went off on the station itself. It was likely that survivors would be treated like they were sick for the rest of their natural lives, and that was upsetting to Jim as well. There was a lot to be upset about, and it was hard to keep track of all of it. It seemed like a distant memory to Jim at this point that he had helped rescue a woman from a desert island less than 2 hours ago. He didn't see himself as any kind of hero, especially as he plunged to the depths of the science wing of the Special Operations Building. The elevator finally stops. The doors stay closed for a few seconds. When they finally open, Jim sees blood everywhere. He draws his gun and falls back against the wall. What the hell happened down here, he asks himself. He takes a few deep breaths before he steps out of the elevator. There are blood smears all over the wall, mostly handprints of blood, but there's also a crude drawing in blood. Jim sees his hands are shaking while he holds the gun out in front of him. He curses himself as he needs to keep his hands steady to fire a shot if he needs to. He hasn't seen any bodies yet, and he half expects them to start falling from the ceiling. He rounds one corner and finds an alarm has been pulled. It's either a silent alarm or it was disarmed before it was pulled. There's a flashing red light off to the corner of the room in front of a steel door. This was not in any manual I read, he says as he walks towards the door. He wants to make a call to Andrea, but she's miles away from him right now. By the time she gets here, he'll either have overcome what's down here, or he'll already be dead. As he gets closer to the door, he hears a ticking sound. Though sound echoes off the walls in this area, he can tell it's something from behind the door he's walking towards. He really hopes that isn't a bomb, or his stealth won't be of any use in this situation. Jim steps towards the door and places the palm of his left hand against it, the gun in his right hand and still pointed forward. He looks at the gun to make sure it's armed and thrusts the door open. Freeze, he yells as the door slams against the wall, and he sees one man sitting in the middle of the floor. The man's wearing a blood-stained lab coat. He has black dress pants and black dress shoes on. There are blood smears on his cheeks and a small clock in his arms, which he has cradled close to him like a baby. He doesn't react to the shout by Jim outwardly. Instead, he talks to the clock. Just another man, he tells the clock. What happened here? Jim asks, really hoping this lab guy's covered in red paint and this is all one big misunderstanding. Bad people, the man says as he rocks the clock he's treating like it's a baby in his arms. Time was up, he says, and then finally looks up at Jim with tears in his eyes. It had to be done, you see. I had no choice. It was time. A shudder passes through Jim. What bad people? The man looks down at the clock. God had me make a choice. God told me what they'd done, and I made a choice. So much blood. Well, this man was likely both insane and a serial killer. Jim's heart sank. You kill people? The man actually starts to cry. I told God they didn't deserve to die. God can be vengeful, you see. When we heard about the DNA tests, the DNA trials of 443 and 1237, we got curious. That was when God told me we were playing where we were not supposed to play. The clones, the bad things, all against the will of God. The man slowly stands and places the clock down on a desk that was behind him. He then picks up a piece of paper from the desk, which he hands over to Jim Webster. Jim accepts the blood-stained paper and reads it over. What's all this crap about DNA testing? What were you doing down here, playing God? Did Blair Drake know what you were doing down here? The man in the lab coat slumps back down on the floor and curls up in the fetal position before he offers an answer. Blair Drake ordered us to do it. The aliens exploited human DNA and it gave him an excuse to do it too. I always hated it. We played God, certainly. The experimentation got out of control immediately and now God's made us all pay the price. How? Jim's at a total loss here. He entered this side of the building looking to confront Blair, not to find a bloody murder scene as disturbing as any he'd seen on the arcologies over the last couple of months. The aliens had experiments, and, when they were apprehended, their data was brought here. We tested it on a few of us first. I was injected with a solution made by Blair. It was supposed to be a low dose, but something went wrong and I was given double the amount, he says, and his eyes glassed over. I killed them. How many? The man shrugs. Maybe 15. My base instincts took over and I was an animal. I bit, clawed, stabbed, and tore my way through my colleagues. They played God. We played God. God chose me to exact his vengeance. He's a vengeful God, you know. So I've been told, Jim says, the gun still pointed at the man in the lab coat. Where's Blair now? He's with his newest curiosities. Where? Floor 15. He won't let anyone go there. That's why the elevator brought you here. It's programmed to send you here, and then we're supposed to tell you you have to leave. He feels it's a perfect setup, but he doesn't know how bad things are down here, the man says as he reaches out and takes back his clock. He returns to the fetal position with the clock clutched in his right hand. The ticking reminds me I don't have a lot of time left. I agree with you there, Jim says as he looks through more of the paperwork the man handed him. So you're Dr. Gordon. I was before all the bloodshed, the man replies. Look, maybe we can get you help. I know a lot of people did terrible things on those arcologies, all out of character. Wasn't in their nature, and I'm sure it's not in yours. Let me help you out here. Jim holds a shaky hand out to the doctor. He half expects him to try to bite it off. The doctor looks up and smiles at Jim. God tells me you're a good person. He tells me this world will be cleansed, but you may survive the darkness that's coming. Only the perfect DNA can save us. The perfect DNA that the aliens found. Perfect DNA? What do you mean? Jim stops extending his hand. He has to stay focused here since this man could snap again at any moment. This moment of sanity is unlikely to last. The doctor pauses to look at the clock. He strokes the face of it before looking back at Jim. You see, the perfect DNA allowed him to break free of their trap. We found that in the data left behind. We have video of it, he says, and he grabs a flat piece of gold which has 3 buttons on it. He places it on the floor and presses the yellow button. Jim almost drops his gun. He almost screams aloud when he sees his older brother John stepping free from the Altilian trap, and then the fight that had ensued. The recording stops when Mike Translow shoots the camera filming these events. Jim just stands there dumbfounded for a moment. John is all he can manage to mutter. The doctor nods. John Webster. Perfect DNA. There is no way for the aliens to control him. His DNA doesn't have any record of previous forms. There's nothing there for them to exploit, and he's immune to their poisons. The poison which has made me a killer is the same as the one he repelled, with almost superhuman immunity. That's why Blair sent for the others. What others? Steve and Rob Webster, the twins, which may have perfect DNA as well. Jim's blood runs cold. I have to get to them immediately, he says, at a level far louder than he'd intended. Such venom from a special ops agent. I'm Jim Webster. Oh, the perfect DNA. I must possess it, he says in a low growl. The doctor's eyes then widen. His jaw drops. He lets out an inhuman wail, springs to his feet, and pulls a bone saw from his jacket pocket. He lunges at Jim and takes a laser blast to the gut, which kills him before he hits the ground in a heap. Poor crazy SOB, Jim says as he kicks the man to make sure he's dead. He then becomes aware of cries for help coming from nearby. I really don't have time for this. I have to help my brothers. if they're really here. And that's the end of the scene. Addison Marks hasn't told his story to anyone. He knew that these quick affairs would eventually be a headache, but he never imagined anything like this Chelsea girl. Even after all this time and all the experiences, he was still vulnerable to someone finding out the truth. Given the events on the news, Addison was starting to become more willing to discuss things than he would be before now. He knows what's on the line here and that the supposedly peaceful Altilians would stop at nothing to destroy humanity. He also knows that there are other forces at work here, ones he cannot understand at this point. He sits at his dining room across from Chelsea. He thinks he liked her better when she was Cherry Banks, a stripper he'd had a one-night stand with. Since she revealed who she really is, she's been very serious and demanding. She isn't entitled to treat him this way, as he never asked her to be his girlfriend. He certainly wouldn't date a woman who is the daughter of one of the most powerful men on the planet. He wasn't that foolish. Well, where do I start? He asks. The beginning's a good place to start. He rolls his eyes. It's not that simple, though. All right. You asked for it, though. I'm a man of flesh and blood, virtually the same as any man you meet on Earth. That said, I'm also hundreds of years old. That's impossible, she says. For a man from Earth, yes, it is. The thing is, I'm not from Earth. I was born on a world which is dead now. One which was destroyed by the very aliens who are trying to fool your world into thinking they can be peaceful, Addison says with a sigh. The burden has weighed on him more than he had known until this very moment. He actually feels better at having shared even just this small part of the story, so he continues. I was a married man, not the womanizer I've been for the last however long. This lifestyle is my way of hiding from my past. My wife and I lived in peace. My world lived in peace. When the Altilians came along, they spent their first few days telling us they wanted to be allies. It was accepted on face value by my people until they turned against us soon after. They didn't bother to analyze our DNA. They only firebombed us into oblivion. I managed to escape with a missile I designed to bring me to Earth. We were aware of Earth and Falteres as the two worlds which also held human life, but we didn't reach out to them as we worried both were technologically behind us and there might be conflict once our people had met. I did a lot of research on both worlds myself. Was actually quite the man of science back then. It was our isolationist tendencies which helped to do us in. By the time a distress signal was sent, it was far too late. He hangs his head, feeling a mix of mourning for his long-gone people and relief at having shared all of this with someone else. Chelsea sits and stares at Addison for a moment. She seems to be studying his face, perhaps to decide whether he's telling the truth or not. Addison Marks, you have to get involved here. You have to stand up and tell our people what you've just told me. At war or not, people on this planet are scared and will look for a way out. Conley was the same. We were all seeded with the same stardust, you see. 3 worlds that we know of with human life, and one's already dead. This one will be next if they have their way. They view Altel as the ultimate power in the galaxy, perhaps the universe. There was talk that they could actually travel between different universes. I don't know how any of that is possible, but I know how strong and smart they are. I also know how determined they are, so if any species is going to figure out how to dominate more than one universe, it would be them. Again, Chelsea pauses. Won't be easy to get people to believe you. I found you more believable as a womanizer. It's hard for me to equate that man with this man here. Look, I don't need to speak to the entire planet and give them some speech. I just need to find the right people, the ones who make decisions, and convince them that allowing Altilians anywhere near this planet's a really bad idea. I can't sit back and watch this happen again. For my wife, for my people, and myself, I have to do something. Chelsea stands from the table. I'll take you to my father then. He'll know what to do. Addison hopes she's right about this. He follows her out of the condo and to her personal shuttle. He takes a look back at that condo and wonders if he'll ever see it again. This is all happening so fast, and there's no telling where this might end up. Next scene. Marianne comes to and is quickly aware she'd been tied down to the table she's on. Blair must have stuck her with a needle during their walk to this room while she was distracted by their surroundings, and it knocked her out. Her vision is blurry as she strains against her restraints to lift her head, but she guesses the figure looming over her is Blair Drake. Why are you doing this? She asks him. Well, Marianne, I've done research on you. When I heard about John's perfect DNA, I had to look into you and what makes you tick. I found out you have 4 sons, 2 of whom you were gracious enough to accompany here. The other 2 I'll have access to soon enough. Now, I don't know how John was able to escape Altilian traps, but we need that DNA to work for us here. The enemy's ruthless, so I have to be just as ruthless, Blair says in a pleasant tone of voice which sends shivers down her spine. What have you done to my sons? She asks with a rage that only a mother can have, but she's still tied down to the table. This is why the cleansing is coming. This is why you will all pay the price for your sins. I was shown the truth ages ago, but I fought against it. The miracle of my children, the miracle of their birth. And people like you want to rob the earth of that miracle. You're rambling, Marianne. I have never been this certain of anything in my entire life. I will make sure the earth is wiped clean of your kind. The arcologies were a warning. They were a warning to back off and turn to God for guidance. Instead, you continue down this road and it will only lead you to ruin. The people of this world are fools. My boys will put an end to the likes of you. Blair finds this amusing. Your rambling continues. You see, Marianne, you are the one who is tied down. You are the one who is in the vulnerable position here. The enemy's crafty and I have to be more crafty than they are or our species is doomed. This isn't personal reality. This is science, and it is the science of war. Marianne would spit on him if she weren't lying on her back and more likely to spit on her own face trying. My God will help get me out of here. You cannot stop fate. Blair sighs. Fate does not exist. We make our own fate. The universe functions on set rules and follows patterns. People like you see miracles where I see testable science and a solid foundation for not believing in all-seeing and all-knowing deities floating above us. The world has moved beyond the likes of you. Leave my mother alone, Steve says, from his equally helpless position not far from where Marianne is. He tries as hard as he can to sit up, but only succeeds in making his arms and legs hurt through the effort. Blair looks over his shoulder at Steve. He then slowly makes his way over to Steve Webster and has to admit he's enjoying his job right now. He has all the power in this situation. The military commanders like Dave Bellows are merely cover for what's really happening here. Their work is dwarfed in importance by that is done through the science that Blair's the driving force behind. Mr. Steve Webster, you and your twin brother here are a minor curiosity to me. I've taken a sample of your DNA without harming you in the slightest. At this point, I do not intend to harm you, your brother, or your humorous mother here. If you intend to pick a fight with me, I can change my focus and inflict quite serious pain on you. Why do this and tie us down in the first place? Steve asks. As I told your mother, the Altilians found that with John Webster's DNA, it was resistant to their infection. They turned on and turned off certain genes within human DNA, only to find that these genes, the ones that harken back to our evolution, were not present in John's perfect DNA. John is human on a level I am not. There is genetic code that points back to my ancestors on the evolutionary ladder. John doesn't have this, and I need to know if the rest of you boys do. Until I know, you have to stay right here, Blair says in a pleasant and non-threatening tone which fools no one in the room. So again, you've tied us up when we would have cooperated, Rob says. Robert, it's not that simple. You see, there's always a reason for these things to happen. I need to make it happen again. If I can reprogram the DNA in living humans to match John's perfect DNA, we have one up on the Altilians, and we can effectively cure people who have their genetic structure mixed with. I cannot simply take a sample from you boys and move on my merry way. You intend to try to infect us, Steve says. Blair applauds next to Steve for a few moments before he continues. You see, you boys are all so damn smart. I just don't understand why the two of you are still at home with Mommy Dearest here while your brothers are out there actually doing something with their lives. It's really kind of sad when you think about it. My boys are good boys, Marianne says, as she too strains against the bonds holding her down. As in Steve's case, her efforts are in vain. You're a monster, she says. Blair sighs and looks towards the ceiling. Why? Why does this all have to end with me being the crazed monster? You gave birth to one mutant we know of, maybe 4 of them in total. Your son John has proven to be very different, and it's in the best interest of this planet to ensure that everything that needs to be placed under proper control by people like me is. I am not the monster here, no matter what you people may think. You're a madman, Rob says. As Blair starts to answer that insult, he hears something stirring across the room. He goes to his desk and grabs a gun that he hoped he'd never have to use. Considering the sensitive nature of the experiments he's conducting, he has to protect them with his very life. His entire life before now came down to this moment. The Websters had to be studied, and he had to find out how they managed to be the perfect humans. He assumed all of the brothers had the same special abilities John possessed, because that made the most sense to him. Steve and Rob turn their heads and face one another. Rob looks around for something that might break them free, while Steve does the same. Steve spots a knife on the floor, likely dropped by one of the lab techs carelessly, but it's out of reach for either of them. That doesn't stop them from trying while the man who kidnapped them remains distracted. Blair gets closer to the source of the noise. Someone's at the locked door, the one that no one's supposed to know about, who doesn't have clearance to swipe through the door. If someone's trying to break in, that's bad. Blair resists the urge to simply fire, though. He knows that he would escalate what might not be a serious situation into something he can't control, and he has to be in control. And that's the end of that scene. So there you go. That's good for now. And then I'm officially about halfway through the whole
The 3.
book thing. Yeah, the 3.
Trilogy.
So we're about halfway through the trilogy. So, yeah. Hi.
Hi, Shannon.
So, how's your stress level today?
Fantastic.
That sounds like a lie.
That is great.
Yeah, mine too.
It's great. Yes.
I think the nice thing is that when you have dropping view counts and then people are telling you suck at it, that's nice.
It does make that better, doesn't it?
So you
People online are awesome.
Yeah. Especially like today I did my favorite Maple Leafs, which means I was wrong.
Oh, we knew that was going to happen. We talked about this. We knew there's that.
Here are my favorite players. No, they're not.
You're stupid. That can't be your favorite. Let me tell you who your favorite really is. If you know anything about anything, these are your favorites.
If you knew hockey, these are your favorites. What? I don't.
You
what?
clearly don't watch this team.
I got accused of that. Yes, I got told you really don't follow this team. Then what? I had John Anderson on the list. Do you know who John Anderson is?
No.
Neither would a lot of Maple Leaf fans. No clue. He played in the early mid-'80s for them, and he scored 37 goals one season, 70 points. I think it was 70 points another season. It was one of my favorite players. I remember the 82-83 card that I had of his. He was one of my favorite guys. Him and Rick Vive and Bill Derlego. Bob Mano as well in the blue line. I didn't have Mano on the list. I should have given him an honorable mention. But yeah, I don't remember any of those guys. Apparently, I didn't watch hockey back then. And I actually see people. This happens every time. Why isn't Dave Keon on the list? Davey Keon played for the Penguin or played for the Leafs in the '60s.
They think you're really old.
I just keep answering with, "How old do you think I am?" I didn't even watch Keon play for the Whalers. He retired before I started watching hockey. I don't know. It's so weird. I don't. Why isn't this guy in your favorites? Because
he's not.
I wasn't alive, or I didn't watch hockey when he played. It's just I don't know how to answer that. You know, like
the next one you need to start it. These are my favorites.
I need to do
my favorites.
On this channel. I need to do my favorite movies and make it 15 movies I've never actually watched.
Just because they're like super highly rated.
Yeah, these are my favorite movies.
I could totally
and they'd be ones
do that,
I've never watched.
There's a lot of the really well-known ones that I just haven't seen.
Yeah.
The Godfather. The Godfather's the best because everybody else says it's the best.
Yeah. I've never got all the way through it myself. Gotta be honest. And The Godfather, I think, was named the movie people are most likely to lie about that they've seen when they haven't. I know they did a poll on.
I have not seen it.
I noticed Citizen Kane was in that list.
I have seen Citizen Kane.
Gone with the Wind was in that list as well.
Spud. What movie?
Gone with the Wind.
Oh, I've seen Gone. I hate Gone with the Wind.
I can't stand Gone with the Wind. I do not like that
movie. Is terrible.
It's bad.
It makes me so uncomfortable. That movie is.
There's a lot of.
Don't understand why people like it.
It is a very uncomfortable movie.
Is terrible.
Rhett's an ass.
He is terrible.
Rhett's terrible.
Oh my goodness, the amount of racism and sexism
and rape.
That movie.
I'm not asking you, Miss Scarlett. You're going upstairs, and I was like, "Wow, that's
I can't. Nope.
That's pretty interesting. That's
not a fan.
Okay.
I know there are people that really like that movie. I'm
Nah.
not one of them.
Nope. There's a lot of stuff in that. There's a lot to unpack. And it's not my deal.
No, the first time I remember the first time watching that and just like, wait, people love this movie though.
I had never actually watched
Holy
the whole
crap.
movie, and then my ex was really, really into that, so I thought, fine, I'll give it a shot.
And the whole big
And-
deal being the frankly, my dear. Okay, that's
about
not
halfway
the worst
through-
thing in that movie.
About halfway through, she's basically kicking me out of the room because I'm like, seriously?
And it's so
All of these soldiers are going off to fight to protect slavery, and they're black.
Yes.
What? This is so
Yes.
messed up. This is so...
Yes.
Now, I understand that's what really happened,
Yes.
but the movie portrays it that they're the good guys and they're going off to fight for the good, and I'm like, wait, no, time out. The South weren't the good guys.
But that's the viewpoint of
South
the
weren't-
movie. You can have a viewpoint
The
of
South
the
was
opposite.
not, but you
No.
could...
No, it was horrible. But
You could
that's the
portray...
viewpoint of the movie.
But you-
Which is interesting. To me, that part is interesting, seeing it from the other vantage point.
It's so messed up, though.
Horrible it is as it is.
It's so messed up.
But no, I don't like that movie.
It's a messed up movie.
Fiddler on the Roof, though, is fantastic.
I've never watched Fiddler on the Roof.
It's great.
As far as I can tell, it's about some Jewish guy stuck on a roof somewhere. So, it's a hot tin roof, isn't it?
No, it's not about a Jewish guy on a roof at all.
I'm pretty sure it is.
No, it's not.
Next year you're going to tell me.
Fiddler on the Roof is a symbol.
Next you're going to tell me To Kill a Mockingbird isn't about killing mockingbirds.
No, it's not. I have watched that one as well. We had to watch that one in school after we read the book.
I had to watch that one in school as well. That one and Outsiders was another one I had to watch in school. The Outsiders is a good one. And of course, what's the other one too? Lord of the Flies.
Oh,
We had to watch that movie.
yes. That one's weird.
And then when I was in
Yes.
acting class, I had to watch 12 Angry Men because we were in
Yes.
12 Angry Men, the play.
Yes, we had to do that one too.
And I was
That
like,
one's really well done. It's
I
very
really,
interesting.
I really overact compared to Jack Lemmon in this one. So that's the way it works though in a high school play. You kind of have to overact things and melodramatize and So, I'm just kind of thrown off today by the fact that I don't know what to say. I'm not going to go in and change my favorites list just to, because
Well,
I've
then it
already
wouldn't be your favorites.
I've already found myself kind of like, oh well, I've got to include this player because if I don't, people are going to get really angry, and then that just throws the whole thing off because then it's not my favorites, and then
not
it shows
very
through because I'm like,
authentic.
and here's this guy. Okay, next. Okay, here's one I actually like, so
Mm-hmm.
I put that one in just to make people happy, and this one, I don't like doing that.
No,
That's not my
It's
deal.
not authentic.
You know, like I've never been a big fan of most of the enforcers. They just
right.
I don't know. I mean, there were some enforcers I liked, but some of them not so much. So, all right. Enough rambling from me. Thank you guys so much for watching once again. We will likely be doing this about once a week. Because she said we spend too much time together. So she's been complaining
so not a
about
thing.
that.
You guys see most of the time that we're together.
She's been
during the
complaining.
day.
She's been complaining that we spend too much time together.
So not a thing.
Yeah. Okay, Pixel, you are not starting crap. Everybody's sleeping here. You are not starting anything.
Where? Oh, she's right here.
Uh-huh. You are not starting things. She attacked Bear in a video today already.
In all this? Is he just blaming you for stuff?
No.
You're just a sweet kitty.
No.
Totally innocent in this matter.
No. She's trying to take over this
you.
room and put them out. That's her plan now. Is okay, I got nice and comfy.
Is that
Now you
'cause
guys
you're
can
the
go.
Queen kitty?
You guys can go.
Yes, are you the queen kitty?
And they're sleeping.
know,
They're
I
both very quiet and
understand.
asleep. And she doesn't need to be up here
I
bugging them.
get it. I know. It's
Thank you
rough.
guys again. We will be back talking to you guys in about a week. Maybe 2. You can take 2 weeks off.
What would you do with 2 weeks off? You would go absolutely crazy.
Well, I go broke.
Well, that too.
That's one option.
That's very true.
I could be broke.
Yeah.
And
and crazy.
even
Broke
more stressed.
And crazy. Yes, you would.
So
I think
Yeah.
that adds to it, though. I think everybody else is really stressed too, and so people are really on edge, and so
Yes.
they're behaving a little bit more out of character.
so they're
like, I mean, I know
they're mad at me
people-
for my lists because I'm
Well,
because
it's
they don't.
people think like with Adelaide, she's already quite the sensitive little girl and cries pretty easy. She's even more so now, and I think everybody's kind of that on edge,
I guess.
extra emotional,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes them feel better to take it out on you.
Well, I'm glad to
I'm
be
sure,
of service then.
You're welcome. But I was thinking about that I think that's part of it too, is everybody's a bit testy as it is.
I got a new panic. I don't know where the other panic one is. I know I have a couple of panic ones, but I'm not sure where they are. So
They were on your shelf here.
I know.
with your
I
cards.
gotta get my maid to clean some of this up for me. So she's been lagging lately.
Your maid isn't allowed to come into the house because she's not a part of the household, so
That's weird because I'm talking to her. So I'm not sure.
not a maid. And I'm kind of busy to clean up your crap. So.
That could mean a pay cut. Just throwing that out there. That could mean a pay cut.
What, like 50%? Oh.
Well, since my pay is down about 70%, that's about, sure. All right. Thanks again, guys. Thanks for helping to get this channel up and going and rocking as well. It helps. Every little bit helps. And I'm enjoying doing entertainment news once a day as well. That's gone well. Like the entertainment news video I did this morning, 1,700 views.
Nice.
So that's...
Why are the van keys
that's
in
good.
here?
Because I had to get a ball for playing road hockey outside. And so I had to get it out of the van.
Why didn't you get it out of the shed?
Because the van was right there.
You know we have a ton.
If
of
I can
hockey
avoid
balls
going in the shed, I avoid going in the shed.
True.
So now I got a hockey ball in here, so I don't need to. I was thinking maybe you could film me out there too,
Oh, I could totally do
and
that.
we could just do this is hockey right now. It'd just be me out in the
Here's
front yard.
hockey. Yes.
You know, I could recreate famous goals and just do the same thing every time.
Yes.
Here's Bure's breakaway against the Flames, and just put on it. Just change jerseys with each goal,
There you go.
and just do it that way.
Yeah, we can totally go outside.
Yeah, that'd be fun. All right, thanks again, guys. Means a ton, and we'll be back tomorrow night with the next installment for my book. I will talk to you guys again soon.